Emma was an 8-year-old girl with bright eyes and an innocent smile. On her first day at a new school in a peaceful neighborhood, she stepped onto the yellow school bus, her heart filled with excitement. Her mother, Sarah, stood on the roadside waving goodbye, her heart brimming with hope for a new beginning. They had just moved to this predominantly white neighborhood, hoping Emma would attend a better school and have a safer life. But no one expected that what seemed like a beautiful dream would turn into a haunting journey. The bus driver that day was Jake, a middle-aged man with silver hair and a gentle demeanor. He always greeted the children with a friendly smile, but Sarah had no idea that behind that appearance was a terrible truth. As the bus doors closed, Emma looked at her mother through the window, and the bus slowly pulled away. Sarah watched it disappear, feeling a vague unease, but she reassured herself that it was just the natural anxiety of a mother as her daughter started adjusting to a new environment. When Sarah and her husband David moved here, they both believed they had made the right decision. The new house was lovely, the neighborhood quiet with tree-lined streets, and the schools were highly rated. David found a good job in the city, while Sarah decided to work remotely to take better care of the family. For them, moving here was an opportunity to start over, for Emma to grow up in a safe and loving environment. On their first evening in the new house, the family gathered around the still unpacked boxes. They placed one box in the middle as a table and ordered pizza to celebrate. David lifted a slice, smiling. "Cheers to our family and to a new beginning." Sarah and Emma joined in, responding in unison. In that moment, everything felt peaceful. They talked about plans for the new house, decorating Emma's room, and their hopes for better things to come. But then Sarah noticed a fleeting hesitation on her daughter's face when she mentioned riding the bus the next morning. She asked if Emma was worried, but the girl just smiled faintly, shook her head, and continued eating. The next morning, Emma woke up early, put on her new uniform, and carried her favorite pink backpack. Sarah held her hand, guiding her to the bus stop, a mix of hope and anxiety in her heart. When the bus arrived, she saw Jake smiling at Emma. "Hello there. First time on my bus?" Jake said warmly. Emma smiled softly and glanced back at her mother. Sarah nodded, encouraging her, but as the bus turned the corner and disappeared, a strange chill ran through her. Emma's first day seemed to go smoothly. She ran home with a bright smile, talking about new friends and a kind teacher. Sarah sighed with relief, thinking maybe it was just her overprotective worries. However, after a few days, she began to notice subtle changes in her daughter. Emma was no longer excited to talk about school. Instead, her answers were brief, with no details about the bus rides. She became reserved whenever Jake's name was mentioned, and that's when Sarah's concern began to grow. One afternoon, while working, Sarah heard the bus pull up outside. She went out to meet Emma and noticed her daughter looked anxious and uneasy. Sarah asked how she was, but Emma just replied quickly and disappeared into her room. That night, after David had fallen asleep, Sarah sat beside her daughter and gently asked, "Sweetie, is something bothering you at school?" Emma shook her head, but there was a flicker of fear in her eyes. Not wanting to press too hard, Sarah softly said, "You can tell me anything, and I'll always be here for you." As time passed, Emma became more withdrawn. Sarah felt helpless, unable to understand what was happening. She decided to follow the bus one morning to see if Jake was truly as kind as he appeared. But as she discreetly tailed the bus through the streets, everything seemed normal. Jake greeted each child warmly. Nothing seemed amiss. Sarah began to wonder if she was just being overly anxious. Then one day, everything changed. That afternoon, Sarah had prepared snacks as usual, waiting for Emma to come home, but her daughter was nowhere to be seen. She called the school, only to be told that all the buses had already returned. Panicked, Sarah called David, then drove around the neighborhood, her heart racing. Finally, Emma appeared, trembling as she got out of an unfamiliar car. She looked terrified, her face pale. Sarah hugged her tightly, her heart filled with fear and concern. When Emma started to speak, her voice trembled, her words halting and filled with pain. "Jake, he doesn't like me," Emma said, her eyes brimming with tears. "He said, if I tell anyone, no one will believe me because of my skin color." Sarah stood there, feeling like the world was collapsing around her. She couldn't believe this was happening to her daughter. At that moment, she knew exactly what she had to do. Sarah and David immediately called the police and reported the incident. When the police arrived, they listened as Emma bravely recounted everything. She trembled, her voice choked with sobs, describing how Jake had insulted, taunted, and even stopped the bus in secluded areas, threatening her that no one would believe her if she spoke up. Emma was terrified of telling the truth, but Sarah held her close, whispering, "You are so brave, Emma. It's going to be okay. Your dad and I won't let anyone hurt you again." After the report, Jake was arrested. News of the incident spread throughout the community, sparking intense debate. Some were shocked, while others couldn't believe Jake could do such things. But then, more stories began to emerge. Other families spoke up about their children facing discrimination, recounting inappropriate words and actions from the same driver they once trusted. The community began to divide, between those who supported Emma's family and those who wanted to defend Jake's reputation. Sarah and David did not stop. They demanded justice for Emma and for every child who had suffered but never dared to speak out. They attended school board meetings, advocating for changes in bus monitoring to ensure student safety. It was not an easy fight, but every time they looked at Emma, they found the strength to keep going. At the same time, they sought help from therapists to support Emma, helping her understand that she did not deserve to be treated this way, and that it was not her fault. Over time, Emma slowly regained her smile. Sarah and David saw glimpses of their lively, cheerful daughter returning, but they knew the emotional scars would take much longer to heal. They couldn't change the past, but they could make sure Emma's future was brighter. Emma's story did not just expose Jake's wrongdoing. It opened up a broader conversation about discrimination within the community. Sarah spoke out on the issue at meetings, encouraging other families to speak up, not just to protect their own children, but to build a better community where respect and fairness prevailed. Over time, other families found the courage to share their own stories, and a wave of change began to spread. One bright sunny morning, Sarah stood on the porch, watching as Emma climbed onto a new bus. This time, the driver was a friendly woman with a warm smile, greeting each child. Emma looked back at her mother, her smile radiant and her eyes bright. Sarah waved back, feeling a sense of relief she hadn't felt in a long time. They had come a long way, but this was just the beginning. A new start where Emma and other children would be safe, loved, and respected.